Okay, issue 4, Pelosi delivers a dose for the Donald.
In an interview with CNN this week, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said she was giving President Trump, quote, a dose of his own medicine, end quote, when she described him as, quote unquote, morbidly obese. Pelosi also blasted the president's decision to take an anti-malarial drug in an attempt to ward off the coronavirus. The president fired back, calling Pelosi a, quote, sick woman. She's got a lot of problems, a lot of mental problems, unquote.
Amber, one of the things we hear a lot about is President Trump's choice of language, whether it's appropriate for someone in his position. Didn't the Speaker of the House do exactly the same this week?
She did. She went full Trump. And another thing that she did after she called him morbidly obese is that she conveniently pushed that declaration to other people. She used the famous "they say," and that is a classic Trump tactic where he wants to sort of pass off his most colorful language to other people so that he doesn't have to take full credit for it. So Pelosi has really taken a page out of his playbook, but I would caution her whether it's wise to be questioning the president's health, considering the person who is running for election on her side has his own issues with his mental health. It seems like that could backfire very quickly.
Eleanor?
Well, that was a nice little shift. You didn't say "they say," but you shifted it to accusing Vice President Biden of having mental problems. So let's say the character assassination operates from all circles. It seems to me. I don't think calling the president morbidly obese was necessary. I mean, I'm not for that. But when I was Googling that, and a year ago in May, you had this same sort of back and forth of insults between the speaker and the president. It's when he called her crazy, and he's called her Nervous Nancy and all of that. You know, he thinks they're clever, but they're designed to plant doubts. And just as they're trying to plant doubts about Biden's acuity, we go from, you know, crazy Nancy to, you know, Biden. I mean, why can't we have a debate about ideas and proposals? I mean, is that so hard? Does it have to all be ad hominem? I guess it has to be.
Eleanor, you know, well said there, but do you think as we try and progress state by state to, you know, lifting the lockdowns of the coronavirus, do you suspect that, you know, this may foster some of these existing divisions in society where, you know, people in one state look at others in a state and say, you know, you're jeopardizing us or you're damaging our economy? And it sort of, do you think there will be a social impact?
We give a lot of attention to the over-the-top comments. So we give a lot of attention to the guys with their guns in the state capitol in Lansing. It looks, when you watch that on TV, you think, oh my goodness, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer must be under really, I mean, she's under a lot of stress. She must be doing terribly. Her approval is 72%. The polls show that 77% of Americans are more concerned about going back into the economy because they're worried about the second whammy from the coronavirus. They're more worried about that than they are about the economy. People are not itching to get out there to risk their lives. Everybody wants to get out there, and we do have a series of steps that the CDC finally put out. And it's difficult for businesses, but I think this is what we're going to see. We're going to see temperature checks. We're going to see social distancing. We're going to see restaurants 25% full. And that's going to be hard to have the economy come roaring back when you're only allowing like 25%. We're not going to be packing stadiums probably for a year.
Tom, let's get back to the subject, the language of Pelosi and the language of Trump. First, clearly this is not the Gladstone versus Disraeli kind of debate, but it's reflective of American society and American politics today. I mean, Donald Trump is sui generis, Sleepy Joe, and these things we all associate with him. Pelosi makes a terrible mistake to try to battle on that level because she's incapable of doing it well and she looks very badly. But this is reflective of the deep hostility and animosities across the aisle that we talked about last week, sort of the poison level of politics. And you wonder how we're ever going to get together. And I'm not sure this country really can, because this has gone on so long. And it is so deep and so manifest in the rhetoric of the two parties then I'm not sure I see sort of the daylight down the road in the 2020s.
Well, the polls show
Well, we're still
people
not.
want somebody who can bring the country together, and Biden does well on that poll. Now, maybe they say that's what they want, and they don't really want it. But Trump has made no effort. He has played to his base ever since he took office. And for an incumbent president in the spring, now almost summer of an election year, to still be trying to nail down his base just shows you how he hasn't really been able to, get any. He was elected with 46.1% of the country, and his approval rating today is at 46%.
Right.
It's amazingly stable.
Yeah.
All right. Clarence.
Yeah, let's go to Clarence. Because longtime viewers will know we are masters and mistresses of civility, and can really talk about how people can have civil discussion and debate. President Trump is excellent at the art of the insult. Because he's still talking to his base constantly. And that means you must use your insult that is very precise, whether you're talking about Sleepy Joe or you're talking about Little Mario and a whole slew of other names he's made up for people. I tried in my column, I urge people to refer to him as President Lysol, because of his medical advice that he gave here recently. And I was shocked to see how many of my readers, almost all of them Trump supporters, accused me of being uncivil and casting out insults. So one thing I've learned, it's a one-way street, and you're not allowed to toss the insults back.
Right.
And instead, we have a situation in which we have a president who has insults all the time and then plays the victim game when anybody reverses it.
Clarence, let me ask you a question here, a follow-up. Eleanor suggests that Joe Biden is going to be potentially the candidate who can persuade more Americans, more independents, and the polls to a degree suggest that may be true, that he's the unifier. Do you think he poses a risk to that narrative with his movement in the past couple of weeks in terms of policy platform, reaching out to Bernie Sanders, moving quite strongly towards the political left? Do you think there's a risk there that he might jeopardize that kind of independent support base?
It's a risk he can take. He has been all along. He was attacked by Bernie and Bernie supporters, and he survived that. And they both had a unifying finish to the primaries. But certainly Joe Biden has to firm up his base among Democrats, show that he is not just a sellout to Wall Street, as the progressives call him. At the same time, though, his biggest appeal has been a return to normalcy, if you will. He was even saying so himself early on. I don't think that's a slogan now, but nevertheless, he scores a lot. The more outrageous President Trump gets, the more Biden benefits by being the guy who says, "Come, let us reason together." And
Wait a minute.
Is laughing at that.
Well, the better, I agree. Joe Biden, look, the less you see of Joe Biden, the stronger he gets. He just had a bad day last week when they left that door open and all those geese were interfering with what he said. But clearly, Biden has stayed out of the picture for 2 months and 2 weeks, and he has
let Donald Trump do it for him.
Because of anything he did, because this battle.
When your opponent is digging a hole, you get out of the way and let him keep digging. And
that's right.
That's what's happening. That's going to change at some point as we get into the summer. But right now, Biden's doing just fine.
Amber, let me ask you, do you think the Trump campaign will have any saliency? I mean, we've seen some poll data that suggests the president might do better than expected with Hispanic Americans. But do you sense there might be an opportunity with him, younger Americans, people who predominantly are in the service industry, for example, who might appeal to this message of, there are risks, but the greater risk is this shutdown. We need to get back to work.
Well, it certainly seems that way when you look at the polls trending among elderly Americans more towards Joe Biden than you would expect in terms of their typically more Republican voters. It's possible that you could see the opposite effect among younger voters who are more interested in opening the economy than they are in protecting their personal health. That's obviously an issue that's important for seniors. And then I think there's some underestimation about how many more voters Trump has actually brought into the fold since 2016. They probably don't reflect as much in polls. A lot of them are referred to as the secret Trump voter. And then there was always this idea that he had split the Republican Party, that never Trumpers were gone, that he had lost this more moderate part of the Republican Party, but he's brought a lot of those people back into the fold. In fact, some of these huge Republican donors are now working on his financial fundraising committees. A lot of them are working with their millionaire and billionaire friends for donor bundling. So he's actually brought the party back together in a lot of ways that aren't really reflective in those polls that we're looking at.
I think there's some separation going on Capitol Hill, as certainly Republican senators are looking at November, and hugging Trump doesn't look like it's the great political move that it once looked like. He was up on Capitol Hill this week, basically urging everyone to stick together. But so far, they've concluded they hang together or they hang separately. But I still think you could see some Republicans moving away from him as it becomes clearer that he is not going to have coattails to carry him into the Senate.
Pat?
You know, senators do what they have to do in their various states. It was true, you know, when Nixon won 49 states and things, and everybody's for him. When he wins narrowly, they're not. But I do think this, and I think it's important. Donald Trump has created a new Republican Party, and the issues that he's raised on trade, on immigration, on trying to bring home troops from these foreign wars and staying out of various conflicts. And I think the Republican Party has not been entirely moved into believing that, but I think more and more are moving behind him, and I don't think we can go home again.
Okay, Clarence, do you want to give us a concluding comment?
No, I think Pat makes a good point there in terms of it's a new party. It's the Donald Trump party. I've been amazed at how many moderate Republicans folded and went along with Trump, and how many were hawks on trade and on government spending, who just rolled over like a happy Cocker Spaniel when Trump came along and raised the deficit by $2 trillion and also really turned the foreign policy upside down, actually. Power follows power. And as long as Donald Trump is sitting in the catbird seat, he's got some clout. If he starts to lose, though, we're going to see people run away from him.